Welcome back to yet another episode of Unscripted with Champagne DeVoe, aka Lulu. So I just wanted to make this part two. The last time you guys were here, we were talking about a whole lot of stuff, and we left off talking about Jersey Housewives. And I wanted to say the story, but I didn't realize we were like 40 minutes in. And, I figured, well, I might as well stop the juice and leave it at a cliffhanger and continue. So when we last left off, we were talking about Jersey and how I did makeup for Teresa Giudice and how, I was really happy that she gave me the opportunity and how I wanted to extend the olive branch to other people. And which leads me to the Danielle Staub story. I don't remember. Oh, yes, I do. I remember Dolores, who is actually my favorite. I love Dolores. Shout out to my Dolo. I love you so much. She is the epitome of great. She's such a kind soul, so warm, so loving. She treats me like a nephew. Her family is so warm to me. Like I literally, no one understands how much I love Dolores Catania. Dolores Catania is literally the best. And I will swear by that from now to the end of time. But back to that story. Dolores was doing, if you go to season 8, I've done a lot of the posting on my page. And, because I was there they were filming it was like a doggy event. And it was Siggy Flicker was still on. Margaret Josephs, it was her first season. I remember meeting Margaret. Um, Melissa, everyone was there. The only person that wasn't there, Jacqueline, was already gone. And after like God knows how long, because I said it on my last episode that I loved when the show first started, but I was like fresh out. I think I was still going into high school. So I loved like all of them, but I didn't really understand anything I was watching. I was just like, oh wow. But now as I'm older, I was like, you know what? My favorite used to be, and I know everybody's gonna be like, you're a nut. My favorite always used to be Danielle Staub. I just thought, how are all these people attacking you and you still seem to be so, you know, fuerte, so strong and so like able to brace yourself for these personalities that at the time, I mean, they were strong personalities. That's the difference between then and now. I feel like bravo and shout out to Andy, who I also used to go and check his office when I worked at NBC. But he's got to go back to his good executive days when he used to, have the right people on the show because, you have people saying we don't want to see that anymore. We don't want to see drama, but yet every time you go to look at the stats, everybody's watching it. So it's just that okay, you're annoyed by it, but you're still checking in. So what's the difference? Anyway, we're sidetracking already. So I get to the event, and this was also the same. I want to say that was maybe the first or second time I met Dolores, but I actually stayed and hung out with Dolores at the end. When I first walked in, I remember seeing Danielle, and this was Danielle when she first came back after being gone for 7 seasons. So season 8, she comes back as a friend, and she still had the long black hair and she was the only housewife that once she left, she never did any events. You couldn't find her. It wasn't like she was going to a bookstore to talk to anyone. So I like took my shot. I was like, I've always been a fan. And we connected really instantaneously. And like I would say we all connect. I connected with all of them. Even I always tell them, Siggy Flicker, if she ever hears this, she always used to give me the best compliments. I remember at NBC when I met her, and when I saw her at this event, she always used to tell me, "You're so gorgeous. You're so pretty. You're so nice." She's like, "I just wanna," and I was like, "Siggy," I was like, "I just want to be your friend." She's like, "Let's be friends." And we used to connect a lot too. I never really got a chance to know her, but I can tell people that she was I thought she was great on the show. I really did. But yeah, I ended up meeting Danielle, and the reason I brought this up was actually I would say the next time I saw her after that, because I went to a few events for Jersey, but I really didn't see her. I would say it was season 9 because no, maybe season 9 or 10, I don't remember, because I wanna say it was maybe 10, possibly, like I said, I'm not sure, don't quote me. Somebody let me know when you hear it so I can clarify. She had short hair at the time, and she was in the process of divorcing Marty. And well, before I get into that, there was a doctor's office that I had made an appointment for, and I had to go see. And long story short, I had no idea she was there. I had no idea. I just saw her there with her two dogs. Well, she had two dogs at the time. One passed away, and I remember seeing her, and she was like, "Hi, honey," and I was like, "Hi," and I was like, I would love to one day. And I remember leaving after having a conversation with her. I don't remember. I was like, we should hang out something. We were making small talk. And I said, I'm going to wait for her downstairs. I said, I want to, I don't want to talk so much. The office was small. And I'm going to ask her if I could do her makeup. Long story short, I waited for like 15 minutes. The girl never came out because she went down the elevator and went out the back way. So we never saw each other. So I DM'd her super fast because I was like, left, and I didn't get a chance. And she saw it and she was like, oh my God, honey, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. We exchanged numbers. I get her address, and next thing you know, I'm in Inglewood. And I mean in the big house in Inglewood, okay? Now, my friend Sapphire at the time, she still, I believe she still does lashes. Um, and I said to her, because she used to do mine in New York and she always did a phenomenal job. And I said, my friend Danielle needs someone to do her lashes. Could you, would you mind obliging her? So she said, oh, of course, it's good for promotion, whatever. So we get in the car. I take her in the car with me and we drive to Jersey. And I can tell you this, Danielle is a nice person. I don't really speak with her now because she just cut it like nothing. Again, like I said, I don't know her enough to have an issue with her, but she cut her ties. I don't know if it was because of Jersey or if it was because whatever her reasons might be. When I met her, I thought she was decent. She was always very huggy. She was very big into spirituality. And when I got in, she was like, please have a glass of wine. We'll set up the table. Next thing you know, I'm sitting in her living room watching Friends as we're all there laughing and she's getting her lashes done. When I left, I did not know that her and I would become, well, actually, I want to take back what I said because we were getting close. Like there were times that we would talk a lot, like in text, which I still have. And we would actually talk on the phone for a long time. Like she would always, oh, honey, I'm here for you. Here's some advice, and especially because she was so big on my community, she was just very supportive. But I do remember going a second time for her to get her lashes again. And she was really pissed off. It was like going from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, like she just flipped. And it made me think now, after all of that, I think the day that we went, must have been the day that she filmed with Teresa and Marty, because Marty was there and he greeted me like nothing, like everything was fine. But then he left. I didn't see him. So I couldn't tell you if what what was on air was true and what I couldn't tell you. But it made me realize I was like, maybe I came the day that all that came out because I had never seen somebody so erratic. And anyway, we were there and we were like, no, don't get upset. Let us, we'll talk, we'll figure it out. And of course, in typical fashion, if you guys follow Jersey from the beginning, you know, she always has had Twitter fingers and she's always been very vocal. So she was getting vocal. And, you know, at she just kept saying how important it is for her to get how much she's put into Bravo and how much all this blah 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 blah. That when we left that night, we were like, this is a woman who is scorned, by the network. I would want to say, and by her co-stars, I would say, and to be truthful. And the reason I wanted to bring all that up was because there were calls that she would call me and, I would ask her, I'd be like, listen, I don't understand. Like, this season, that I met you, you were getting along with Teresa. You were, how come you were never made full time? And allegedly, she made less than 400,000 for that season. And I don't know if she's ever put an article out on it. I wanted to put it out there because I was like, I don't understand how. And the reason I wanted this conversation to come out is because I just realized too, I do a lot of rewatching so I could try to have different, things to discuss, even if it's a throwback show, anything like that. And I was like, you know what? I said, Jersey's the only franchise in Bravo where only one past housewife got her own spinoff. I'm like, Teresa's the longest housewife that's on that one, never got a spinoff. Danielle came back as a friend, and I get it. Some people are like, okay, she came for 2 seasons. We're not going to give her a spinoff. But it's like, but no one ever got one besides Caroline Manzo. So I was like, I wonder why these networks are the way that they are. Not to mention, I thought about the network and then I thought about her too, because I was like, this is a woman that, I mean, we knew each other, but I mean, to share with somebody a figure of what you made and everything, it was like, made me stop and think, okay, well then how'd you get in the big house? How did you where did all this come from? I'm like, I want to understand it. But the reason I brought it up too is because there are some of them that you meet and are really nice. And like I said, out of the blue, when I moved out here to Florida, we kept in touch for a little bit. And one day she went live and I was being like a gracious person, saying, thank you for always being gracious to me, letting us in and whatever. And next thing you know, I was unfollowed. So I don't know what exactly happened, but it made me realize that I was like, there are people in this world that really take things, uh, I guess another notch or take it in a way that it shouldn't. Meanwhile, I was like, you shouldn't be mad. I'm like, this is a woman I've never sent. I don't send anybody gifts. Like, granted, my family, yeah, but I mean, like, if it's a friend of mine or whatever, I'll wish you happy birthday or whatever. I don't do it because nobody buys me a gift. I'm like, if you buy me a gift, I'll buy you a gift. But if you don't get me a gift, I'm not getting you anything. But I remember she was really big into crystals. And she had told me, listen, if at one point I was meditating from her helping me because she was really big into that. I was like, oh my God, it's making a difference. It's helping me. It's helping my chakra. Blah, 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 blah. I got out of that phase really fast. But I wanted to reciprocate what she had already reciprocated to me. So I sent her, I don't remember if it was a big crystal. It was something I sent her. And I texted her and I said, please, I hope that when you get it, you like it. I just want to let you know I sent you something. I think if I remember, I think she told me she got it. I don't know if she ever opened it. She was like, yeah, I have it. I have to open it. And I'm like, how does somebody that you really don't know gets you something and you can't even open the box just to say thank you? Or, like, hello. And then really after that, after she kind of phased herself off the show, we just never kept in touch. But the reason I brought it up is because a lot of people always asked me in the past, and like, you worked with all these people, give the tea. And I'm like, listen, I never opened up my mouth to Danielle Stahl because, well, about her, I should say, because even when I was there, she told me, she was like, unless the cast of Jersey pays you, please just work with me and don't work with them. She was like, and she was, of course, she was still good with Teresa. She was like, Teresa, I don't care. She's like, but if you're going to work with, Margaret or Melissa or whoever, I'd rather you charge them. And in my head, I was looking at her and I was like, I don't charge. At the time when I was doing it, I didn't charge any of them because I liked that, if I did their makeup, they posted for me. So back to my other episodes, I'm like, networking is key. It really, it helps you along the way. So you lose $100 the first time, but you'll gain 400 the next. So it's a shot worth taking. But when I was asked, I always kept my mouth shut. And I was like, now I want to tell everybody everything. I was like, I want to open up about RHONJ in a way that I haven't, in a way that where people can connect. And I plan on really talking about all the franchises because I've met a lot of them. I just really never spoke on it. And some of them I've met via social media and it shocks me. I mean, I tell people all the time, like, Kathy Hilton likes my pictures, even my stories. She's been in my DMs, and my mouth has dropped. I'm like, Paris Hilton's mother is liking my stuff. I go, what am I doing right? I'm like, what am I doing right to to get this attention? Like, what did I deserve? And it made me realize that I also want to share it because you shouldn't be put in a position. And like I said, I was a champion for her for Danielle when she was on the show. And I'm like, I don't want to be told by anybody who to work with and who not to work with because it's just it's immoral and it's catty and it's immature. So, you know, I think that story was important. And again, I wish her well. I don't have any issues with her. I just think it's important to share that because even when she resigned, I was kind of upset because of everything that had come out. And I was like, I said, these shows have to go back to the basics. Like, they have, even right now, like Atlanta's coming back. And I cannot believe that Sheree is not back. Like, how many times could you get rid of people that the actual audience wants? I don't care about the executive. The executives only cut the checks. They don't, and a draw board. It's not really going to make or break the scenario. But like, I sit there and I say to myself, and don't get me wrong, I'm going to get shaded. I don't care. Like in Atlanta, like right now, Drew Sidora, I mean, I think Drew Sidora is nice, but like, what's going to be your storyline this season? You're getting divorced, and now you're working on music. What are we doing? Portia, I like. Portia's good TV, and she knows how to navigate that camera. She ain't no dummy. And really, truthfully, who else is it? I said it was Portia. I said it was Drew, and I don't remember the other one right now. Oh, Kenya, and Kenya Moore is returning. I like Kenya too, but I just feel like even her, like you have people like Nene Leakes, and yeah, I get it. Some people are like, oh, we like her because she's tough. I'm like, yeah, she is tough. She's I wouldn't want to be in a room and have a riff with her, but I also just feel like her last storyline wasn't a lot, so. You couldn't make her a friend and bring somebody else back. So it's a topic of conversation that people really don't have. Like even on Jersey, I'm like, listen, never once have they brought back. They had that terrible season when Teresa wasn't there. Not one OG came back. Like a lot of people say, oh yeah, Dina. I'm like, I'm sorry, Dina didn't do it for me. Dina was never really open about her life. She just wasn't. Like, I mean, if you're open about your divorce, fine. But like, she didn't want. When the show started, I mean, Teresa and Danielle carried the drama. That's just the truth. So I'm like, I didn't really care for her return. And then none of those girls did it either. So they never came back. Uh, I always liked Jacqueline, but I felt bad for her in the end because I know she got stuck with a big hand when it comes to her family and stuff like that. And TV is stressful. So I know she brought it too, but when her time came and she left, it was good. She left at a good time. And who else? And to be honest, and I've met Caroline Manzo too. I think she was great when she was on it too. I don't have an issue with. I can't have an issue with people I barely. But it made me realize I was like, I don't even know how she's been gone for years. I'm like, and I don't see her fitting in that. Even when people are like, bring her back. I'm like, bring her back for what? I'm like, bring her back. But there's really no one I notice in our, and like in Beverly Hills or here and there, somebody steps away and eventually somebody comes back. Even if they're not a friend, they're something. And I was like, you guys got to start listening to your audiences. I'm like, these people don't want to see what you want to see. I mean, even OC's coming back, and I'm like, how do you bring back OC without Taylor? And if you weren't going to put Taylor on OC, could you put her on back in Beverly Hills? Like, they're still in the same. I mean, it's a drive, but they're still there. So it made me realize that I was like, I want to put all this out there. I want people to hear, everything. Even listen, I met Siggy and I didn't know anything that the articles that came out about. I didn't know any of that was happening because I mean, how would you know? I didn't know her like that well enough, but I felt bad. I was like, how do you join a show and have a certain expectation of it, and that's your experience? that kind of just that kind of just sucks. But I thought that that story with Danielle would be important to be told because, again, she was the second person that I went to do makeup for, and she's the only one that I went to do makeup for and didn't even touch her face. She got her lashes done plenty of times, free of charge, by the way, but never once did I touch her face. So, the reason I brought up the story because a lot of people always ask me, and I'm like, I don't pick sides unless it's like a do or die scenario, which should never be the case. But I'm like, I get along with pretty much all the women. I just at that point when the show was on, I kept my mouth shut. I was like, I don't want to go work with this person or that person and share, and then it falls on me. And, so I kind of kept my mouth shut. But then I was like, I have to share this because people have often asked me, how do you make that work? How do and I was like, I don't know how you make it work. You just go and you make it work. You go and you just try to live it out. You try to make every dream of yours a reality. Whoever I worked with on whatever I worked on them with was still a privilege to do, regardless of whether I speak to them now or I don't. And I'm trying to think if there's anyone else on Jersey. Like I kind of met all of them. I mean, listen, even with this new season now too, they're talking about Jack. When I first met, not the old Jackie, Jackie, the new Jackie Schneider, Gold Schneider, excuse me. She was the nicest person. I met her at the Envy fashion show in the same season, season 8. And she was a ball, her and her husband, Evan. Evan was so nice to me. And I was so dolled up. I ended up in one of the Jersey articles with two of my really good guy friends. It was a really nice time. But it makes you realize like you watch all these edits and you're like, are you kidding me? Or all the things I've posted with all of them. I was like, I want to start to share all those things because people want to know. Or oh my God, not even when season 9 had started, when I had met Jennifer Aiden, I thought Jennifer Aiden was the best because when you meet somebody that's from that culture and they have all this money but it was more than that. It was that I had met her before the show aired with Dolores and another event that we hit it off, and the entertainment industry is so like everybody's like, oh, it's so big, and I'm like, yeah, it's big because I guess there's so many names, but it's really small because once you meet one person, then you all kind of know each other. My friend Christy, that was on Love and Hip Hop New York, was there. Excuse me, a couple of trying to think who else was there. My friend Talia was there from I don't know if anybody remembers. Uh, what was it? Divas, I think it was. There. It was like a show for cutting hair and stuff like that. She was known to be like the Kim Kardashian lookalike. She was there. She's a doll. Um, and yeah, Dolores was there, and I remember meeting her too. But the best part about meeting Jen Aiden was her brother. Of course, she knows the jeweler, and she had an event, and I remember going, and she was there with her daughter Olivia, and Olivia was small at the time. I would say maybe 7, 8, I don't know, something like that. She was small. And she was like in love. She just hit it off with me. And she was like, Mommy, I want him to come home and hang out with us for a little bit. And she was like, okay, we'll pick a day and, we'll come and we'll hang out and, maybe whatever. But listen, sometimes TV don't lie. Olivia was so persistent that she was like, do you have anything to do? She's like, we can go home and order food and just hang out. And I was like, yeah. I said, I'll just, if you want to follow you or send me your address. So she sends me her address, and I end up going to the big house with the 16 bathrooms, which I did not see. Clearly I saw it up, like the main stuff. I saw some of their rooms and stuff like that. But the part that got me was like in the latest, I think last season, or maybe, yeah, I think it was last season that Margaret was talking about Jennifer and her, I don't know, being a druggie or whatever. Meanwhile, I'm like, listen, when I met her, she had asked me straight up. She was like, do you smoke weed? And I was like, yes, I do smoke weed. I was like, would you like to smoke with me? And she ended up having a whole thing ready, and we smoked, and I remember being totally fried at her house in her basement where she had all the kids, where all the kids have their fun, and she's got the TVs, and it was great. So I tell people, I go, they're not, they get paid to do a job. Some of them are really, really great in their life, and some of them are really, really not. Some people ask me about Margaret. I'm like, I've met Margaret maybe about 3, 4 times in my life. I've never had a problem with her. In fact, I remember meeting her at an event, and she was, I think, selling brushes, like, like makeup brushes and stuff like that at the time. So she was going to send me a set. No shade. I never got the set, but I had my makeup line at the time, which was EU Cosmetics. And I wanted her to have some lipsticks, and I wanted her to promote it. And I ended up going to the house to drop it off to her. She wasn't there, but I was in the neighborhood, and her husband Joe was there. So I handed it to Joe because he was coming down the stairs, and he looked at me like I was like an intruder. And I was like, I'm just here to drop this off for Margaret. But I never really had an issue with, like, never. I can't have an issue with someone I never had an issue with. But, it does become sometimes hard when you're the makeup artist and this and that, because you know, it may be a minuscule thing, but you're still kind of entangled a little bit in what they're doing. Some of them want you to be very loyal to them, so it's interesting, it's really, really interesting. But for the most part, I think that that's all just super, like super important. And really, really, it, I mean, now that we're just talking about housewives, because I totally veered off from just the Danielle conversation, I mean, a lot of it has been revamped. Even New York. I haven't even seen New York's reboot because I refuse to watch it. And people are like, oh, it's pretty good. And I'm like, listen, I get that some of those women are old, but then make a Real Housewives, give it a different title then. Give it Real Housewives 2.0, do something else, because sometimes the OGs are the best. When I think of Jersey now, I always stop and I go, you know, now, especially now with this reunion not happening, which I think is a crock of shit, but especially with it not happening, I'm like, are you going to revamp it? Because if you revamp Jersey, and I get it, listen, I like most of them, but at the end of the day, if you get rid of Teresa, I'm not watching it. And it doesn't matter whether you like her or not. It's just about when I watch other franchises, I'm like, you know what? Unless you're like a Lisa Vanderpump, where you're like, I'm done and I'm not doing it again, they usually come back. I'm like Jersey, none of them came back except for, well, Jacqueline, yeah, but she came back as a friend once, and they came back full time, then left completely. None of them ever came back. They did, Dina came back one time, never came back. Um, Caroline left season, the earlier seasons, never came back. Danielle left in season, I think it had to be, what, 2, I think it was. And then she came back in 8, because that's when I met her. That's how I know the timeline. But I'm like, even then, she was an OG. She started the show with the girls. There shouldn't have been a question about the size of the house or anything. Should have made it full time, because she knows how to bring the juice. I don't know what happened, nor do I care. But it just made me realize, like, wow, the universe, this Bravo universe is starting to change. Like, you know, sometimes the chemistry works, sometimes it doesn't, you know? And even with this new cast, like, I tell you the truth, I don't like the new girls. I don't like either of them. The new Danielle is from Staten Island, and I love how they hired her for Jersey, but she's really a Staten Island girl. It's obnoxiously annoying. If you're someone from New York, and I mean, I'm not from Staten Island, but I live there, and to me, it's just a bunch of girls that are just cocky and have a nasty attitude for life, So I don't, uh, I don't jive with her at all, and I'm not surprised with the stuff that came out about her. Rachel has been trying to get on the show for God knows how long, and only because I say it. When you go to an event and you see them, and I never saw them signing disclosure, but if you're there at an event and I always see you, it's because listen, maybe you're just attending, but they're definitely scouting you. So it takes one to know one. But I don't like her either. I kind of did in the beginning, but to me, it's more of a I don't. How can I say this? Well, it's gonna come off whatever way it's gonna come off. But like as old school as I was brought up, I feel like men that enter a conversation that is truly meant for women are soft and have to check what's dangling down there. So, in my view of it, because I tell people, look, I'm proudly openly gay, but if you fuck with me and shares words, I will mop the floor with you. I don't care whether you're brolic, not brolic, long hair, short hair. I don't care. I'm not going to tolerate it. So for me, it just came across like, how do you allow, you can't allow everything. You can't allow it all, but I also think as a husband though, if husband and wives are going to chat, you let the wives and the wives chat, let the men chat, because you know what, if the men chat and they want to fight each other, it's okay, they're men. I'm not condoning violence, but it's two men fighting. That's like me going to an argument with a bunch of guys and my sister, like I'd be like, get back. I don't care if I have nails on. I don't care if I have the best foundation that foundation could get. I'm fighting, like, and I'll do it alone because that's at the end of the day, my gender is a male. That's it. It doesn't matter, and I feel comfortable in my skin. Of course, I'm happy with who I am and happy, but I just feel like that's important. And when you are a guy that goes into a room and you're talking about a woman, I don't care what she's been through. It's disrespectful the way I was raised. So I stop and I say to myself, is it him that's a housewife or is it you that's the housewife? If you're the main event, stay the main event. Teresa Giudice was married to Joe. Joe really didn't want to be in the mix when she went. That's what it appeared like to me. And not that I want to go backwards and bring them anything negative because I don't wish that. But even like if it came to her and her family, nobody want he didn't want to be involved. That's the right way to be, unless you know what we saw on TV happen. Like, okay, I got to defend my wife. Then you get up and you defend your wife. But I'm not going to get on national TV and tell another woman, especially as a grown man, you went to jail for fraud. Meanwhile, I understand what she meant at the end of the day in this past episode I just saw. Because it's like, okay, if you were arrested for selling weed, you were still arrested. They still locked you up for 24. Listen, I was in law enforcement. I had my share of stories. So if you get locked up and you don't see the judge for 4 days, you still get locked up and you still have to wait to see the judge. So lockup is lockup. It doesn't matter what it is. So to turn around and tell somebody, granted, it's not on the scales. Like, yes, we have scales, there's a murderer, a robber, but at the end of the day, lockup is lockup. And I think people who have been locked up are able to connect and share in a certain way. That they're able to understand, like, okay, maybe there's a reason why you went there. Not everybody goes to jail and is perfect. I've had, I've known people that have gone and they, it's not like they took a knife to someone or God forbid hurt someone. It could have been for something as simple as, and I'm not saying simple in that aspect because doing tax fraud is not the right thing to do at all by any means. But you know what? It's not something that is violent to another person. I think something where you're violent to another person, then you deserve to be where you are. But especially when you're violent to a point where God forbid the person is not around anymore. So, I just didn't like it. And I still don't like it. I'm hoping that the season will go back. I'm hoping that, Andy and a lot of these executives will start to sit down and go, okay, how can we bring these shows back to life? I even literally have been campaigning, because only Atlanta that I can recall, if anyone recalls any other franchises in Bravo that have done it, please let me know, because that I can recall, the only time I ever even saw an LG like a gay friend or anyone be on there, it was years ago on Atlanta, and it was, I don't remember the black guy's name, but he was on there and he was pretty funny. I'm like, you guys got to get diverse. Like, you know how many people in this world, especially where I live now in Florida, that there are guys a part of my community, transgenders and lesbian, all these people that have all these sugar situations, or they're dating men that are so much older and have money. They can fit into that equation too. The circumstances may not be the same, but they still fit into the category because these people still have millions of dollars. They don't want you to go to work and they want you to stay home and please them. So therefore, that still falls under the category of housewives. I feel like, even with Atlanta, you know, uh, you need some of these people back. Like, listen, Kim Zolciak was just blowing up a couple months ago with everything she's got going on. Okay. She was great when the show started. Put her back. Trying to think who else was pretty good. Oh my God, if they could bring back Phaedra, any way they could get Phaedra to come back to ATL, oh my God, I loved having Phaedra. Or listen, one can pray, but Nene Leaks, I would donate my blood for fusions. I mean, I'd be like, come on, girl, take the check. But it makes you realize sometimes, like, is it really uh not that it's always the executive, but it's like, okay, is it really Andy? Or is it really, or look at, honestly, look at, actually, perfect. I'm bringing this up random as a random part of the whole podcast was not planned. So here's a little special for you. Salt Lake City. A lot of people don't know. I've never even been to Utah, but one of the first people that really acknowledged me was Jen Shaw. I know, ball jaw, Jen Shaw. But I'm not going to speak on anything of it because she's not on the show anymore. Everybody knows where she is. But she did send me a happy birthday and she was back and forth with me. But when that show started, really my favorites, like I liked her, Meredith, I liked Heather. Then when the second one aired, I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, oh my God. I was like, what's happening to Salt Lake City? Because well, not the second, not the second season, but the season that Monica came on, because Monica actually follows me too on social media, and if she hears me, I hope you come on because I've been begging you for months. um and I just felt like her story when Monica was on was not the same as Jen Shaw, but I mean, like, it was as big. Like, I've never seen somebody go on a TV show and do what I'm not saying she's allegedly whatever she's done as far as the posting and getting the knowledge she needed. Like, listen, and if you can openly acknowledge that on TV, you're TV gold. How she didn't return is unknown to me, because it brings me back to Jersey. Danielle came back full time, wasn't talking to anybody, carried it alone. What, you're gonna tell me that all those women on that show actually fit there as a full time? I don't think so. Like, first off, Mary should be full time again. Shouldn't be a friend because she's hilarious. Like, I don't agree with everything that's a part of her life, but she fits in there perfectly. There's no Salt Lake without Meredith. Hate me if you want. I love Meredith on there. I think she's a perfect fit. Lisa Barlow, and I don't know. She's a New Yorker like me, but I don't know. Something about her just, I don't know. I get wish wash vibes. Heather, I liked. I thought Heather would be my favorite. But then I realized, when you start to, it's like when a dog starts running for a treat, when you start having your moment and you take too much of that moment, then you start to die out, So I don't know. I liked her, but I just felt like, or even, I forgot the other girl's name that she sounds like Cher. She's not a bad person on the show. I think what makes her good is that she has a mouth to defend, but her life is so not interesting to me. So not interesting. But it makes you think that certain franchises, you really got to look for the talent and you really got to know what talent to keep and what talent to let go. Like, every time I go on to her, to especially Monica, I can't believe that you're not back. I said, how many people, or I'll be honest, look at even Dubai. When Dubai first started, I really wasn't into it. Now I love Dubai. And the second season literally just started. I think it was yesterday. So, and I already watched it. And I'm like, these women, I know that there's one new housewife and one left, but the rest of the women that are there, they fit perfectly into the show. Like I look at it and I'm like, they're only in their second season, but you can't have Dubai without Stanberry. You can't have it without Ian. You can't have it without Brooks. I mean, because Brooks, to me, Brooks is really like top tier on there. Um, Sarah, I do like Sarah. I like Sarah more because to me, there hasn't been like a housewife that's grounded and is about spirituality. And really, truthfully, even the reason I love Dubai is now more so is because when you don't know a lot about a culture and it starts to cultivate on TV, you learn so much. And the way that they dress is so extravagant, and the things you learn. I had made my partner laugh. I was like, honey, I was like, just so you know, in case we ever, go to Dubai, you have to have like a license in order to drink alcohol there. Like, so if you want a beer there, we're gonna have to pay some serious money for you to have that beer, or else you're gonna be drinking juice. So all these things intrigue me. And especially for someone that worked at that network, it's like, the ideas, I'm waiting for them to call me so I can share my own spin-off ideas I have, not because it has to include me. I'm like, listen, the amount of networks and people that I crossed and met that I mentioned before, that it made me stop and go, wow. I mean, look at how designed. I mean, it leaves me speechless. It leaves me speechless. But I wanted you guys to have a part two, as I'm seeing that I spoke so fast too and running out of time again. And thank you all so much always for listening. And on these two last parts, please, please, please share your input. I can't stress it enough. I love when you guys DM me. I love when you guys share your thoughts, and please leave your comments. You know, uh, I love to see them. And, you know, and again, stay blessed and enjoy your week. And thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, bye.